Earlier this afternoon, Mr. George Floyd's funeral service began, and our nation continues to mourn. Last week, I talked about some of the efforts that we intend to undertake regarding policing in Ohio. In 2015, then Governor John Kasich formed Ohio's Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board to create uniform minimum standards for Ohio's law enforcement agencies. Tier 1, what's called Tier 1, covered use of force, which includes deadly force, and also hiring and recruitment, those two different things. Having a diverse police force is certainly important, and these standards also place the preservation of human life as the highest priority. As of today, 79% of Ohio's law enforcement officers work for an agency that has voluntarily complied with these standards or is in the process of getting certification. However, the number of these certified agencies only make up a little more than half of all of Ohio's departments. There are over 800 departments. More than 400 of those agencies in the state have not chosen to pursue certification, showing that they meet these minimum standards. Now, there may be many reasons why these departments have not done that. And in some cases, I'm sure that they would say that their standards are just as good, if not higher. But I am encouraging today the 400-plus police departments around the state of Ohio that are not certified in these minimum standards to begin working on this process. We'll work with them to help ensure their compliance. I've directed the Department of Public Safety's Office of Criminal Justice Services, which oversees the certification process, to reach out directly to every single police agency in the state that is not meeting these standards and to assist them any way that they can. A report listing the agencies that have and that have not chosen to pursue certification on these minimum standards is available on the Ohio Department of Public Safety's website, and that is publicsafety.ohio.gov, publicsafety.ohio.gov. And what I just announced has to do with those two standards, recruitment and use of force. There are other standards that have been outlined by this collaborative. You'll see in the report, when you go to that page, that the collaborative also has developed additional minimum standards for law enforcement, including standards on community engagement, body cameras, bias-free policing, employee misconduct, and telecommunicators. And last year, I also directed the collaborative to add an additional item, and that is to set new minimum standards on law enforcement pursuits by automobiles. The agencies that have chosen to become certified in these additional standards are showing strong leadership in Ohio and are showing their communities that they are in fact listening. So again, I would encourage all departments that have not been certified in those to please pursue that. I think it is very, very important. Today, I am announcing that I have directed the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board to begin developing yet another minimum standard, this time on law enforcement's response to mass protests. I'm asking the collaborative to examine issues such as at what point in a protest do measures like tear gas, pepper spray, non-lethal projectiles become necessary. 2, what tactics and techniques are in fact best practices for dealing with a crowd that is failing to disperse. 3, how can law enforcement prevent the members of the media from being injured? And 4, when do tactics become excessive for a given situation? Now, let me be clear. When protests morph from peaceful to violent, law enforcement must be empowered to act. When law enforcement witnesses physical violence or property destruction, they must be ready and able to react. We are not looking to give the small number of violent protesters a free pass. Far from it. What we do want, though, is for peaceful demonstrators to feel safe when asserting their First Amendment rights, and for the public to be protected against violence and destruction of their property. I believe that the examination of these additional standards will be helpful to come up with additional standards, to try to come up with uniform standards throughout the state of Ohio. We certainly will welcome anyone's input in regard to that. Ohio must do more to encourage minorities and women to join the ranks of our police departments. Therefore, I am announcing today that through the use of existing resources, we will create a new Ohio Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment within the Office of Criminal Justice Services. The need for more minorities, more females in the law enforcement profession is certainly not a new concept. Many local departments have done a phenomenal job in this area, but more work certainly can be done. Many local agencies are, in fact, already aggressively marketing to minority groups on their own. But through this new office, the state will help local agencies with recruitment and with retention. We have been in touch with the Ohio Mayor's Alliance and intend to work closely with them to get results for their communities. We also intend to work closely with the sheriffs and the chiefs of police throughout the state. As I indicated last week, we are going to continue to work on this. This is my first round of announcements. These are additions, frankly, that I can make quickly without legislation, and I can do as head of the executive branch of state government. Many necessary changes for meaningful law enforcement reform are going to require legislative action, and we are working on other ideas for law enforcement reform with our friends in the General Assembly. We're working with the law enforcement community, we're working with elected officials, we're working with community organizations, both local and statewide, as we move forward. So this is not the end, this is just the beginning of our focus on this. I intend to stand here again in the near future detailing even more changes.